Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. These are not just words etched into the annals of literature. They are a sacred alarm, a divine frequency broadcast across time by the master observer of human nature, Mark Twain. This is a profound spiritual truth, a soul-shaking whisper that has grown into a deafening roar in our modern age. I invite you now, in this very moment, to pause with me. Silence the noise around you, silence the noise within you, and truly feel the immense weight of that statement. Let it sink into your bones, into the very marrow of your being. Have you ever truly felt it? That strange, almost imperceptible tremor in your soul. That unsettling feeling when your own inner compass, your divine guidance system, seems to be pointing in a direction diametrically opposed to the massive, thundering herd. It's a feeling that flickers for a moment, a spark of inner truth, before we instinctively, almost violently, extinguish it. We dismiss it as doubt, as foolishness, as arrogance. We push it down, deep into the recesses of our consciousness, perhaps out of a primal fear of being left behind, of being ostracized, of being seen as strange, an outcast cast into the cold, desolate wilderness of solitude. But what if that brief, flickering feeling was not a malfunction, but the very voice of your higher self trying to save you? What if I told you that the crowd you so desperately, so instinctually seek to join is not the sanctuary of safety and belonging you believe it to be, but a meticulously constructed spiritual prison, a labyrinth designed to confuse, disorient, and ultimately dismantle your very soul? What if the comfort of conformity, the warmth of being part of the whole, is actually the most carefully crafted illusion of our time? Imagine it as a hypnotic lullaby, its melody woven with promises of acceptance and validation, singing your spirit to sleep while your most precious assets, your reason, your individuality, your unique divine spark are quietly, systematically stolen away in the dead of night. We have all witnessed this spiritual theft, even if we did not have the words to name it. We see it in the brightest among us. Picture a brilliant doctor, a man who has taken a sacred oath, a man who has dedicated his entire life to the noble art of healing and saving lives. His hands are steady, his mind a fortress of scientific knowledge. Yet, we watch in disbelief as he suddenly becomes a vessel, a willing mouthpiece for dangerous, unsubstantiated misinformation, his critical faculties washed away in the overwhelming emotional tempest of a social media frenzy. He is no longer a healer. He is a carrier of a mental contagion. Or consider the successful entrepreneur, a woman whose mind is a finely tuned instrument, as sharp and precise as a razor's edge, capable of building empires from a single idea. Yet we see her, logic abandoned, joining a riot, her voice lost in a chorus of rage, shouting slogans in the street that she would never, ever believe in the quiet, sacred sanctuary of her own home, in the presence of her own soul. Let us be unequivocally clear. These are not fools. These are not weak or unintelligent people. They are intelligent, capable, often extraordinary men and women, people just like you, who have unknowingly stumbled into a spiritual trap. A trap so ancient, so masterfully engineered, and so deeply insidious that its mechanisms have been intentionally hidden from us, buried for centuries beneath the comforting lies of social cohesion. This phenomenon is not merely a quirk of human behavior. It is a science, a forbidden science. A dark art that reveals the terrifying mechanics of how crowds, these great collective beasts, methodically strip away your essence, leaving behind an empty shell that moves and speaks in perfect, mindless unison with the mob. If you have ever felt that magnetic pull, that split second of doubt, before surrendering your sacred truth to the deafening roar of the majority, then this message is your lifeline. This is the universe handing you a key. This is your moment of awakening. Stay with me, for I am about to show you how to unlock the chains. Let us know in the comments below if you have ever felt this invisible pressure, this spiritual gravity of the crowd. Your story is not a sign of weakness. It is a testament to your awakening, a confirmation that you are not alone, that you are not crazy. Share this message, this key, with another soul who is ready to unlock their own prison. Now, let me ask you a question, and I implore you to answer it with a level of brutal honesty you might normally reserve for your most private moments. Have you ever felt the intoxicating, almost narcotic pull of a crowd? That electrifying, overwhelming rush of energy that courses through your veins when every single person around you, as far as the eye can see, seems to believe the exact same thing, to feel the exact same raw emotion, to march in perfect synchrony to the beat of the same hypnotic drum. Perhaps you experienced it at a political rally or a protest, where the very air crackled with a righteous, shared fury that felt more real, more potent than reality itself. The feeling of 1,000 hearts beating as one can feel like divine power. Or maybe you felt its digital counterpart, a viral trend sweeping across the internet like a tidal wave of opinion, a powerful current of consensus that felt utterly impossible, even dangerous, to swim against. The fear of being the lone voice of dissent can be paralyzing. It could even have been something as seemingly trivial as a heated argument in a conference room at work, a moment where you knew, deep in your gut, in that place where your intuition resides, that something was profoundly off, that the group's conclusion was built on a foundation of flawed logic or fear. Yet, you remained silent, you nodded along, you went with the flow. Why? Why do we betray our own inner knowing? Why do the smartest, most discerning, most capable men among us suddenly and willingly transform into fools the very moment they are absorbed into a collective? The answer to this profound and deeply disturbing question does not lie in the shallow waters of modern headlines or the fleeting foam of social media trends. It lies buried deep within the earth, in a groundbreaking work from 1895, a text so powerful, so revealing in its dissection of the human soul, that it has been studied in secret for over a century by those who wish to master the art of control. It is a playbook for manipulation, a blueprint for power. The man who dared to unearth and articulate these truths was Gustave Le Bon, a French polymath, whose name you may not know, but whose insights have shaped the very world you live in. His masterpiece, The Crowd, a study of the popular mind, is not merely a book, it is a spiritual revelation. It is a scientific exposé of the highest order, an unflinching look into the shadows of the human psyche. Le Bon's work rips the veil off the mechanics of mass manipulation, showing with chilling, irrefutable clarity how the invisible forces of the crowd can turn the sharpest, most independent minds into mindless puppets, dancing on the strings of a collective madness. He gave us the map to the prison, and in doing so, he also gave us the first clues on how to escape. To truly grasp the terrifying magnitude of this power, let us set the stage with examples that feel all too familiar in our hyper-connected world. Imagine a respected university professor, a man with a doctorate in a hard science, his office wall adorned with degrees and accolades, a shelf overflowing with published works. He is, by all measures, a pillar of logic, a gatekeeper of reason. His entire life has been a testament to the scientific method, to evidence-based thinking. Yet, in the midst of a global crisis, a time when his expertise is needed most, you find him on social media, his fingers typing furiously, retweeting a baseless, emotionally charged conspiracy theory. He has done no research. He has not vetted the sources. He has not applied a single ounce of the critical training that defined his entire career. He does it simply because it is trending, because the digital mob, in its infinite and anonymous rage, has declared it to be true. In that moment, he has sacrificed decades of intellectual integrity at the volatile altar of the crowd, trading his wisdom for the fleeting comfort of belonging to the angry majority. Now, picture a principled lawyer, a woman renowned for her unshakable logic, her steel-trap mind, and her unwavering dedication to the intricate dance of justice. She finds herself at a protest, initially drawn by a noble cause. But as the energy of the crowd escalates, a palpable change occurs. The air grows thick with a singular pulsing emotion. The individual thoughts of thousands merge into one powerful, primitive current. In the heat of this collective fervor, she joins a mob that smashes windows and burns a building, all in the name of a justice she can no longer articulate or define. Her individual conscience, the very compass that guided her life's work, has been completely and utterly consumed by the crowd's singular, destructive will. You must understand, with every fiber of your being, that these are not isolated incidents. They are not anomalies or the actions of inherently flawed individuals. They are predictable, repeatable symptoms of a deeper, universal spiritual truth, a truth that our entire societal structure, from our education systems to our media, desperately wants you to ignore. The truth is that crowds are not just collections of people. They are living, breathing psychological entities, powerful psychic machines designed to hijack your brain, to short-circuit your critical thinking, and to transform you into a willing, unthinking tool for someone else's agenda. And the most terrifying part of this entire revelation, this isn't something that happens to other people. It is happening to you, right now, today, in ways so subtle you likely do not even notice. This is not speculation. It is not a fringe theory. It is a scientifically proven and replicated reality. Decades after Gustave Le Bon first penned his chilling warnings, a psychologist named Solomon Asch, working in the seemingly sterile environment of a laboratory in 1951, conducted a series of experiments that would forever change our understanding of social pressure. His experiment was chillingly simple, yet its results laid bare the raw, almost magical power of the crowd. He gathered a group of volunteers and asked them to perform a painfully easy task. Look at a line on a card, and then pick the line of the same length from a set of 3 options on another card. The correct answer was always obvious, a simple matter of visual perception, but there was a catch. Unbeknownst to the true subject of the experiment, everyone else in the room was an actor, instructed by Asch to unanimously give the same patently wrong answer. What happened next was shocking, and it has haunted the halls of psychology and sociology ever since. A staggering 75% of participants, when faced with the unified but incorrect opinion of the group, went along with the crowd's blatantly wrong answer at least once. Even when their own eyes, their own senses, were screaming the truth at them, they chose to betray their own perception. These were not weak-minded, unintelligent, or easily suggestible people. They were ordinary men, college students, professionals men just like you, who surrendered their own judgment, their own direct perception of reality. Under the crushing, invisible weight of collective pressure, they made a subconscious calculation. It was safer, more comfortable, to be wrong with the group than to be right all alone. This experiment is the clinical, repeatable proof of the very phenomenon Gustave Le Bon had observed in the chaotic streets of Paris decades earlier. He had uncovered a truth so dangerous, so unflattering to our self-image as rational beings, that it has been systematically buried under layers of societal denial ever since. Le Bon's work didn't just describe what crowds do, it exposed how they do it, how they turn rational men into instruments of chaos, driven by ancient, primitive forces they cannot comprehend or control, all while believing they are acting of their own free will. So, what is it that makes this truth so terrifyingly potent, so universally applicable across time and culture? It's because this vulnerability is not a flaw in your character. It is a feature of your human hardware. You don't have to be unintelligent or uneducated to fall into this trap. In fact, your intelligence offers you almost no protection. Your academic degrees and your professional achievements are not a shield against this primal force. The power of the crowd doesn't engage with your rational mind. It bypasses it entirely. It is a primal energy that preys on your deepest, most ancient survival instincts, the ones wired into your very brain over millions of years of evolution. The instincts that told our ancestors that separation from the tribe meant certain death. And in our modern world, this force has been given a powerful new steroid, technology. With the advent of social media algorithms and the carefully engineered culture of viral outrage, this ancient force is stronger, more targeted, and more pervasive than ever before. Every like you give, every post you retweet, every trending hashtag you join is another pull, a subtle, invisible tug dragging your consciousness deeper into the collective mind. It is a digital vortex where your individual reason is meant to drown in a turbulent, manufactured sea of emotion. Before we dive even deeper into this forbidden knowledge, this map of the human soul, I want you to pause and ask yourself again, and feel this question resonate in the deepest chambers of your heart. Have you ever felt that tug? Can you recall a specific moment when you went along with the crowd, when you silenced your own inner truth, even as a voice deep inside of you screamed that it was wrong? Hold that thought. Cherish that memory of dissonance, because what you're about to hear might be one of the most unsettling, yet ultimately liberating, scientific and spiritual insights of your entire life. Gustave Le Bon was not merely an observer of history. He was a master surgeon of the human soul. He didn't just study crowds from the safety of an ivory tower. He dissected them with the cold, unwavering precision of a scientist, revealing a fundamental truth that explains not only why great societies fall, but why good, intelligent men commit foolish, destructive acts. He exposed the invisible architecture of our world. This is the forbidden science of how crowds systematically turn sovereign men into unwitting fools. And it is a truth you were never, ever meant to hear. So let's be crystal clear about who this man was. Le Bon wasn't a philosopher or a dreamer spinning abstract theories for academic applause. He was a scientist, a physician, a man of hard, empirical evidence who studied human behavior with the same methodical rigor a chemist uses when mixing volatile compounds in a laboratory. His laboratory, however, was the real world. He lived through the violent, chaotic aftershocks of the French Revolution, witnessing firsthand, on the blood-soaked streets of Paris, how men of intellect and high-principle lawyers, doctors, artists could be reduced to mindless puppets in a mob's frenzied grip. He saw the beautiful, intricate machinery of individual reason be dismantled and reassembled into a crude, brutal weapon of collective will. He saw the birth of chaos. He watched as rational, educated men, men with families they loved and principles they cherished, were transformed into monsters, shouting for blood in the public square, swept away by a collective fever that burned away their humanity. His work, born from this crucible of chaos, laid the very foundation for modern social psychology, influencing every major thinker on power and influence who came after him, from Freud to the architects of modern advertising and political propaganda. And the truth he uncovered was so fundamental, so powerful, that society has been trying to keep it a secret ever since. Le Bon's central, earth-shattering realization was this: crowds are not just gatherings of people. They are, in fact, powerful psychological machines capable of rewriting your thoughts, erasing your individuality, and turning you, a thinking man, into a fool who serves someone else's agenda without ever knowing it. In 1895, he published his magnum opus, The Crowd, a study of the popular mind, a book that wasn't just a sociological study, it was a dire warning, a flare shot up into the future. Le Bon argued that the moment an individual becomes part of a crowd, he is no longer himself. A new entity is formed, a collective mind. This is a psychological force, so overwhelming, so primal, that it completely erases your cultivated personality, your logic, and your very sense of self. In his own profound words, "In a crowd, every sentiment and act is contagious to such a degree that an individual readily sacrifices his personal interest to the collective interest." Think about that for a moment. You, a man of intelligence, a man of unique principles and hard-won experience, can have your entire identity, everything that makes you you, vanish into a chanting, surging mob. You might find yourself shouting slogans you don't truly believe, feeling an anger that isn't truly yours, all because the raw, magnetic energy of the crowd has consumed you. This is not just a theory. It is a clinical diagnosis of why the smartest men so often become the biggest fools. Le Bon broke this process down into 3 chilling, inescapable, and universally applicable mechanisms. Understanding these is the first step to building your spiritual armor. First, there is the law of mental contagion. Within the psychic environment of a crowd, Emotions and ideas do not spread through logical persuasion. They spread like a wildfire, like a fast mutating virus infecting every mind it touches. Logic, reason, and critical analysis are completely bypassed. You don't think. You simply feel what the mob feels. Its righteous anger, its terrified panic, its ecstatic euphoria, whether it makes any objective, logical sense or not. The powerful, intoxicating feeling of shared emotion becomes its own justification. It's a potent drug that makes you feel profoundly connected and intensely alive, even as it systematically robs you of your senses and your sovereignty. In that state, you are no longer an individual mind carefully assessing a situation. You become a single raw nerve ending in a giant, twitching, unthinking organism, reacting purely on primal instinct and shared hysteria. This is the engine behind online outrage. It's why a single, emotionally charged video or headline can ignite a global firestorm in a matter of hours, with millions of people sharing a feeling they haven't even taken a single moment to truly understand or investigate. They have caught the fever. The second mechanism is heightened suggestibility. Once you have been infected by the contagion of the crowd and your individual consciousness has merged with the collective mind, you become intensely, almost hypnotically, susceptible to suggestion. The crowd's leaders, and these, can be anyone from a charismatic politician on a grand stage to an anonymous but influential voice on social media, or even just the loudest person in a corporate meeting can now plant ideas, images, and commands directly into this collective consciousness. These suggestions are not questioned, they are not analyzed, they are not debated, they are accepted as absolute, unshakable truth. Your critical faculties, the very mental muscles you've spent a lifetime building, are put to sleep, lulled into a state of passive acceptance. You effectively become a puppet, and the leader, the influencer, the demagogue, holds all the strings. They become capable of making you believe the most absurd things, justify the most immoral actions, and commit acts that, in a state of individual reflection, you would find utterly reprehensible. The powerful images, the simple affirmations, the endlessly repeated slogans, they are designed to bypass your rational mind and appeal directly to the primitive, emotional core that the crowd has now fully activated. Your mind is no longer a fortress. It is an open gate. Third, and perhaps the most morally corrosive of all the mechanisms, is anonymity. Hidden within the vast, faceless mass of the crowd, your sense of individual responsibility completely evaporates. You lose all accountability for your actions. The moral compass that meticulously guides your behavior when you are alone, when you know you will be judged as an individual, simply disappears. Shielded by the sheer number of people around you, you feel an intoxicating sense of invincible power. A liberation from consequence that allows you to act on base instincts and primitive impulses you would normally suppress. This is the dark magic that explains why ordinary, decent, law-abiding people can participate in riots, looting, vandalism, and acts of shocking cruelty. The crowd grants a silent permission slip. It absolves you of personal guilt. It whispers a seductive lie into your ear. You are not responsible for this, the mob is. This sense of anonymity is a powerful and dangerous drug, one that can unleash the darkest, most shadow-filled parts of human nature, turning a group of civilized, thinking individuals into a primitive, destructive, and often monstrous horde. In that state, you are no longer John Smith, the father, the husband, the thoughtful community member. You are simply a faceless, anonymous part of a force that feels utterly righteous in its power, no matter how irrational or destructive its actions may be. Now, let's pull this out of the history books and the psychology labs and bring it directly back to you, to your life, right now. Because Le Bon's powerful theory isn't just about historical mobs storming the Bastille. It's about the countless invisible crowds you are a part of every single day. Your workplace, your social media feed, your political affiliation, even your cherished circle of friends, these are all crowds. Every single one of them, each with its own collective mind, its own set of sacred beliefs and unspoken rules, all exerting a constant, subtle, and relentless pressure on you to conform, to think like the group, to feel like the group. This is the forbidden science they don't want you to know, and it's time you see its insidious machinery operating in your own life. Our modern world has not only adopted these mechanisms, it has perfected them, weaponized them, and scaled them to a global level. The complex algorithms that curate your social media feeds are not neutral conveyors of information. They are specifically designed to create and manipulate digital crowds. They are engineered to trap you in emotional feedback loops and outrage cycles, keeping you angry, fearful, and, most importantly, clicking, sharing, and chanting their pre-written script. Think of the last time a viral hashtag ignited a global firestorm online. You saw thousands, even millions of otherwise intelligent people, doctors, teachers, scientists, engineers, men just like you piling on with righteous fury, condemning a stranger without knowing the facts, without a moment of critical thought, all because the crowd's momentum felt too powerful, too righteous to resist. That is not an accident. It is a design. It is a finely tuned machine built to profit from your folly, to harvest your attention, and to neutralize your individual power. This is bigger than you. This is a battle for your soul. The system, the vast network of tech giants, media outlets, and power-hungry leaders desperately wants you lost and disoriented in the crowd. They need you to be too distracted by the latest outrage to see the truth of what's really happening. They don't need to censor your thoughts directly if they can keep you perpetually swept up in a collective, too busy emotionally reacting to ever truly think for yourself. Every click, every share, every moment you go along with the group without questioning, you are feeding the beast. You are fueling their power. Le Bon's science, therefore, isn't just a dusty old warning. It's a modern-day X-ray, exposing the hidden machinery of control that turns rational men into willing fools. But here is the good news, the divine spark of hope. You can choose differently. Le Bon's science isn't just a diagnosis of the problem, it is a powerful battle cry for the solution. Every single time you pause to think, every time you dare to question the consensus, every time you reject the crowd's emotional roar, you are performing a sacred act. You are reclaiming your intellectual freedom, your spiritual sovereignty. That is not easy. It takes a kind of courage that has become all too rare in our world, a courage that will immediately set you apart from the masses. But you are not here to blend in. You are here to stand out. You are here to be the man who dares to think for himself, who dares to be the lighthouse in the storm. So, here is your challenge, should you choose to accept it. And it is not a small one. It is a sacred call to action, a direct summons to reclaim the throne of your own mind. This revolution begins not with a bang, but with a series of simple, quiet, almost revolutionary acts. First, you must carve out sacred time for intellectual sovereignty. Dedicate just 30 minutes each week to deliberately read something that actively challenges your current beliefs. Find a blog from an opposing viewpoint, an article that makes your blood boil, a book that questions the very foundations of what you think you know. You must intentionally and courageously break out of the comfortable, self-validating echo chambers that keep your mind chained to the crowd's singular voice. Second, you must practice the sacred pause. Before you hit that share button on a viral post, before you join the digital chorus of outrage and condemnation, you must stop. For just 60 seconds, take a deep breath, check the source. Ask yourself, with genuine curiosity, is this objectively true, or is it just the crowd's latest emotional fever? Is this my thought, born of my own reason, or has this thought been expertly planted in my mind? This single minute of conscious reflection is your most powerful shield against the insidious plague of mental contagion. And third, you must embrace the divine power of saying 3 simple words, I don't know. In a world that demands instant, absolute, and often aggressive certainty on every issue, admitting uncertainty is not a sign of weakness. It is a bold, courageous act of defiance against the mob's relentless demand for blind, unquestioning conformity. It is the humble, sacred ground upon which true wisdom is built. These are not just good habits. They are weapons in a spiritual war. They are the tools you will use to reclaim your mind from the grip of the collective. Because you must understand, this fight is more urgent now than at any other time in human history. You see the evidence every single day. The phenomenon of cancel culture, the terrifying speed of online pile-ons, the spread of viral conspiracies, they are all undeniable proof that Gustave Le Bon's century-old warning is more relevant now than ever. Waking up to this reality isn't just an option for a better life. It is a matter of spiritual survival. And in doing so, you are not just fighting for your own mind. You are lighting a spark, holding a candle in the darkness for others to see. You are starting a quiet rebellion against the overwhelming tide of collective madness. The system wants you to stay asleep, to remain lost and comfortable in the mob's deafening noise. But you can wake up. You can choose reason over madness. You can choose courage over conformity. You can choose sovereignty over servitude. You have the tools now. You possess the weapons to break free from the crowd's gravitational grip. The question is no longer whether you can break free. The only question that remains is whether you will. So take that first, brave step. Question the crowd. Question everything. Share this video, and by doing so, help wake up the men around you. Because in a world increasingly ruled by mobs, the man who dares to think for himself, the man who stands alone in his truth, isn't just free, he is unstoppable.